Hi, I'm Detroit City Councilman James Tate, representing District 1, and our minds are no doubt remaining on the ongoing battle against COVID-19. In fact, the governor just recently extended the stay-at-home order for a few more weeks. People are unfortunately still testing positive and dying from the virus, but thankfully, finally, the numbers are starting to stabilize. The question that we are all left with is, what will life look like after the pandemic, and how can we affect the outcome for our lives individually as well as our communities? With the city of Detroit facing at least a $348 million shortfall and a record number of Americans filing for unemployment, all as a direct result of the pandemic, we know that the funding that we receive from the census will serve as a valuable tool for our economic recovery. Joining us today is Aaron Harris, Deputy Director of 2020 Detroit Census, who will provide key information explaining why filling out the census this year is more important than ever. And we have joining us today Ms. Aaron Harris. She is the Deputy Director of the Detroit 2020 Census. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, we are in this viral situation because of COVID. A lot of things have changed as a result of this post-COVID world. One of these things that we have to look at is the census, which is still extremely important no matter what time of year. It comes around every 10 years, I believe it is. You can just give our folks just an understanding, what is the census, and why is it important to participate?
Yeah, so the census does come around every 10 years. It's mandated by the Constitution that you fill it out, and it brings funds into our communities that affect a lot of Detroiters. So WIC programs, school lunch programs, healthcare, and some of the other programs, and special ed programs are just some of them that affect our community. And so we definitely want people to fill out the census. I always tell people at meetings, some of the things may not directly affect you, but it affects your cousins, your nieces, your nephews, your family members, your neighbors. So you need to fill out the census and make sure that we get an accurate count.
So now I'm hearing that the census itself, if someone does not fill out the census, it's about $5,000 per person per year. How does that work out?
Yeah, so Detroit receives most of the funding from the census in the state. And so we estimate that probably about 5,000 a person, if you don't fill out the census, that we could lose. And so if you can imagine 10 years ago, we estimate that about 30,000 people were undercounted in the city. And so that's a lot of money. And so we want to make sure that everybody fills it out, and so that we get our fair share.
So what do those dollars go towards? In addition to the dollars, it's also congressional seats, I know. Okay. But what do those dollars go towards?
So the dollars go towards helping out with WIC programs, so Mother with Infant Children, it helps out with those programs. Bridge cards, which a lot of people in our community depend on that to eat. Healthcare programs. So it goes towards a lot of those programs. And so it's extremely important that we make sure that we get an accurate population count. And congressional seats, we stand to lose. Right now, we have 2 that represent the city of Detroit. We stand to lose 1. So it's really important that our population count is accurate so that we don't.
And so when we start talking about the post-COVID world, it's important to make sure we have those legislators, that representation in Washington, to help us retrieve some of those federal dollars that are available across the country. We're talking about trillions of dollars that are allocated to municipalities throughout this country for the next 10 years. We want to make sure that we get our fair share. Right. There's definitely going to be some packages that are related to the coronavirus recovery, stimulus packages, but these are dollars that are always on the table for us every 10 years, and we've just got to make sure that we don't lose out on what's already in place. Talk to us a little bit about again, we are in this virtual world that we're now being placed in and thrust upon us. How are you all communicating to the community effectively, especially those who may not have internet access?
Yes. So every opportunity I get, I try and speak at, they have district meetings, you have district meetings as well. So any chance we can get, we try and speak, whether it's on the internet or over the phone on a conference call. Right now, we have census captains that are working with us in every district. We have probably about 20 in District 1 specifically. And their job right now is to make phone calls, calling registered voters to find out if they filled out the census and make sure they include everyone in their family. So we're doing different things like that, making calls, getting on conference calls just to make sure that everybody gets the word out. Because we do understand that not everybody in the city has access to the internet. But we want to make sure that any opportunity we get to get the word out about the census.
So, I mean, in addition to that, though, I mean, I'm so used to the census takers going around knocking on doors and getting people involved. Do you still have some of those? I mean, I see you got the memo. We both are wearing our census shirts.
Yours is a lot brighter than mine. But so one thing I didn't mention that we're going to be doing is we're doing a mailing to over 200,000 households in the city. And so that's something that the Detroit Census campaign is going to be doing probably in the next couple of weeks. So enumerators will come knocking on your door, and they will probably start in May or June. However, that's been pushed back because of COVID-19. But we want to encourage people to fill out the census now. Go to my2020census.gov and fill it out. If you cannot do it online, call 844-330-2020. Have our seniors might have an issue with getting online. Give them the number to call, because we know when people knock on our door, we don't want to answer if we're not expecting anyone. And we're definitely not answering the doors these days. So make sure you go online, my2020census.gov. You don't need that 12-digit code that we talked about. You do not have to have it online, or when you call, there is a place that says if you don't have your 12-digit code, click here. Make sure you click there and continue to fill out the form.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the issue about the 12-digit code, because I was filling out mine and I saw it asked for the code, and I didn't have a code. I didn't know what they were talking about. So, I closed it out, and we filled out the hard copy. But for those who may not know about the 12-digit code and how to, when it pops up on your screen, what to do. So you say again, what's the instructions?
So it will pop up on the screen, use your 12-digit code. So the 12-digit code is something that was sent to you in the mail, separate from your form. And a lot of people tossed it, which is understandable. They didn't really know what it was. So it only allows you to, once you put that code in, it will fill in the information for you. So like your address, your name, but you don't have to use that code. You can just click below it. It says, if you don't have the code, click here, and you can continue on with the process. Same over the phone. They will ask you, what is your 12-digit code? You tell them, I don't have my 12-digit code, and they will continue asking you questions.
Now, I read somewhere that Detroit was, if not one of, it was the area that was determined to be the hardest to count. It had the most hardest to count people, and I felt a certain kind of way. I was offended, as a Detroiter, when I heard that. But there's a technical reason why they use that terminology. What does that mean in terms of hard to count, and what are you and your team doing to overcome that hurdle?
Yeah, so hardest to count areas are considered, or population, children 0 to 5. A lot of times mothers forget to count children 0 to 5. African American males, for whatever reason, African American males and Hispanic males aren't filling the form out as much as other ethnicities. And so those are some of the hardest to count areas that they're referring to. And we know Detroit has African American males, Hispanic males. And so while this is an issue with a lot of urban cities, we know that we have it here in the city. And so our campaign has been working with a lot of nonprofits that directly work with some of those hard to count areas. And so we've been working with them to try and get the word out to their constituents and to let people know the census is here. Please fill it out. These benefits can impact you and your family, so make sure that you fill it out.
Yeah, so that is extremely important because again, they indicate, I think 8 of 10 residents, per 10 residents are quote unquote hard to count. So you
Right.
guys definitely have your a big job ahead of you. Well, we
Yes.
have a big job. Let me just say that as residents, in addition to you all encouraging us to do what we need to do to fill out the form. Speaking of filling out the form, there's 9 questions.
Yes.
I'm sure they're hard, difficult questions, right?
No.
Okay,
Not at
what
all.
type of questions are we talking about?
So we're talking about your first and last, first middle name if you have one, and your last name. They do ask you your phone number. So people are like, why do I need to give my phone number? So if they have any questions about your form, then they ask you for your phone number. You do not have to put your phone number on there. And they don't really have the enough employees to just call folks to ask them about any corrections on their form. They ask you your address, your sex. They ask you, are you an owner or a renter of that property? So these are really easy questions. There is a long form that comes out that only hits 2% of the population every year. They call it the long form, and they ask you a lot more questions about income and different things like that. But this is very basic, very simple questions about your household, and it should not take you very long. Just make sure, most important question is how many people are in your household? Make sure you put that number down because that is extremely important. And it does not matter what is on your license, what address is on your license. It only matters where you eat and sleep most of the time. So that's what we have to remember. For those folks who have moved here from other states that still have another state or another city on their driver's license, it doesn't matter. If you're here, you eat and sleep here most of the time, this is where you want to be counted. And so if you have insurance somewhere else, we don't care. We want you to be counted here in Detroit.
What about child support payments? I mean, we always hear,
Mhm.
those fears. I don't want to fill out the form because it's going to the government, and this may be used against me to fill in the blank.
Yes.
What is
Confidential for 72 years. It doesn't matter if you have back child support. It doesn't matter if you owe back taxes. This is confidential for 72 years. We need you to fill it out. No one is going to knock on your door as a result of you filling it out. But if you don't fill it out, then an enumerator will come around and knock on your door because we need to get an accurate count.
So I know that you all, in addition to doing a lot of the online advertising, the billboards, and as you mentioned, you're going to be going door to door when the governor releases the
Yes.
stay-at-home order. You also have a challenge that you all are starting to put the framework together for various neighborhoods. Talk to us a little bit about that challenge for those communities that want to band together and increase the numbers in their neighborhood.
So we have a neighborhood challenge that we're going to probably implement on Monday, put out there on Monday for each neighborhood to get involved in. You'll be able to go online or join one of the district calls and hear where your neighborhood ranks. We're trying to make sure that neighborhoods understand where they are right now with their percentage and how we can increase that. For example, in District 1, Brightmore area, Grand River, Southfield area, we need those numbers to increase. And so we plan on having this listed so that every Monday at a certain time, you will be able to see where your neighborhood lies. And at some point, we probably will add a stipend onto that for neighborhoods, for them to beautify their neighborhood. And so that should be coming very soon, but please look out for that on Monday.
So we're going to look out for that. We're going to make sure we get it out to the community. So we talk about these percentage numbers. Of course, it'd be great to have 100% of participation.
Yes.
Give us an idea of where we are right now in the city of Detroit in terms of participation, and what's our goal, being realistic of where we think we're going to be.
So our goal right now, we're at 41.8%. And so there's a lot of reasons why that percentage is a little bit low as compared to other cities. Detroit received the most number of paper forms. 86% of the city received a paper form. 14% were told to specifically go online. And so if you can imagine, those paper forms will be counted, but they're a little slow with getting processed because of everything that's going on. Our goal, overall goal, is to get up to 70%. In 2010, we were at 64, and in 2000, we were at 70%. So we're really trying to get back up to 70% or higher, because again, that self-response rate is so important. When you respond yourself, we get an accurate count. When we rely on the Census Bureau to fill in the blanks, we miss out on a lot of people.
And you know, we're a very competitive. We have a very competitive spirit here in the city of Detroit, state of Michigan. So we're you know, at this point 40. You said 41 point.
Michigan's overall, I think, is close to 55%. State of Michigan.
So we're at Detroit, in the city of Detroit, 41 plus some change percent. Yes. The state of Michigan is at, you said 55%.
Close to that, yes.
So we want to make sure that we increase our numbers well beyond where we are today. So I just want to give people a perspective on where we are, so that they don't get the impression that, you know, we're doing very well with no problem. If I don't participate, no big deal. We still have a long way to go just to get to our 70%, which still, you know, is not where we absolutely want to be, but we're being realistic about the participation level based upon all the changing demographics and challenges that we have in the city of Detroit. So again, before we wrap up, the most important question that people have to answer, because people may have some apprehension about filling out every question, we have to, again, be realistic. The most important question is to make sure you place the number of individuals that are in your home. And how do you qualify that again? If I got a kid that's in college, is that child necessarily going to go on my my census form?
So college students are the highest overcounted population. And so if you can imagine, parents will count them at home and the college will count them as well. And so we, you know, what we're not concerned about is an overcount in the city. So if we have parents counting their children and Eastern Michigan decides to count their child as well, it's okay. But we want to make sure that you absolutely put everybody that's in your household, whether they're a family member or not. So we know that in some households, you have multiple families that are living there under one roof. You're only going to get one form to that address. So everybody in that household needs to be included in that one form. Babies, you know, I get the question about, well, if I am pregnant and I'm due in June, should I include my child? Yes, please do. So make sure everybody in that household is counted. Yes.
Okay. So we're about to wrap up. We want to give you an opportunity to send out the information on how, again, people can participate. What are the ways, the simple ways that people can participate? But you know, before we go there, I know that there's been an extension for the due date, for the deadline for submitting the census. We don't want people to wait until that due date. That's the time where we get an opportunity to fine tooth and smooth over any rough edges. But it has been extended. It typically, I think, is in July, but it's been extended just a few weeks beyond that.
You're right. So as of now, it's been extended to mid-August. They're trying to actually extend it further. And so we will find out if that is actually going to happen. But as of now, it is extended to mid-August. So people do have until that point. But remember, enumerators will start to come around end of May or June and start knocking on your doors. So in order for them to not knock on your door, please go to my2020census.gov or call 844-330-2020. Now, everybody should, whether you, if you haven't filled it out, you will be getting another form in the mail. And for some people who have filled it out, they've received another form. So you will get a form this week or next week in the mail. You can fill that form out, or you can easily just go online, fill it out. You don't have to worry about taking it to the mailbox. You can just easily do that, and your numbers will be counted soon.
All right. Well, a lot of great information. Aaron Harris, we thank you for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
Aaron Harris, the Deputy Director of the 2020 Detroit Census. You stay safe out there, and we wish you all the best in your efforts to help bring those numbers up in the city of Detroit.
Thank you very much. You too.
Census data is used to allocate more than $1 trillion worth of funding to more than 300 federal programs that are critical to our children's health and well-being. There are numerous polls that reflect a general distrust in government officials. These are the same government officials that are responsible for dispersing the funding that the census provides, as well as other pots of money. And because of this distrust, there are those who simply won't fill out the form. Now, I can respect that point of view when it comes to distrust, but you got to remember that these are your dollars and not theirs. And if they're not serving you well, then vote them out of office and replace them. But don't throw away this opportunity to bring much needed and guaranteed funding to your community for the next 10 years. While federal funding always serves as an opportunity for local governments to improve upon economic development, education, transportation, housing, and other social services, these dollars will play an even more critical role for our city's post-COVID-19 recovery. Thank you for watching, and as we continue to remind you, stay safe, stay strong, and at least for now, stay home unless absolutely necessary. We'll see you next time.